Hello everyone, Thijs here again, and this time also with another video. This is the first card review that I will do about the Knights of the Frozen Throne. To start at the beginning, there is just an expansion being released, and we have the first cards already in there. But I first want to also get over towards the expansion information, what the Knights of the Frozen Throne will be. So we are gonna get 135 new cards in the game, and a lot of them will also require new mechanics. We will get hero power cards that are that will all classes will have a legendary card that will reveal a new kind of hero power for the class. We will get lifesteal mechanic what already is announced, and maybe even some more. The expansion will be coming out in August, and I'm now gonna do a little card review on all card review on all the already revealed cards that came up out of the first week. So, already 15 cards revealed, and I'm gonna go over all of them. First card, Deathstalker Rexxar. Deathstalker Rexxar, deal 2 damage to all enemy minions. 6 mana, it is the legendary Hunter class card that will replace the hero power of the Hunter. It will replace the Hunter hero power towards a 2 mana hero power where you can discover or you can make your own beast card. You can combine 2 beast cards that you discover combined in one. Still have to pay the mana cost for it, but combined you can combine 2 beasts with the power of 1. So you can make some really strong beasts out of that by combining 2 beasts. Imagine combining Fletchling with a Stone Tusk Boar and having the direct charge into the face. So there are some really strong combos, but it will be costing 4 mana. So if you, for example, Volt combine a Stone Tusk Boar with the Fletchling, that will mean that you have to pay first 2 mana to discover it. Then you have to pay to discover them together, and then 4 mana to play the card. So looking at that, the mechanic is quite expensive. Looking at this card itself, with the battle cry of dealing 2 damage, it's really comparable to a lot of cards that are already out there. For the Hunter, it maybe is the most for explosive trap, but we have the Volcanic Potion, what is definitely worth the 3 mana. You gain 5 armor by this. It is, I am a little bit worried, a little bit too slow. Gaining 5 armor and dealing 2 AoE damage, it's not that cheap for 6 mana. Deal 2 damage might be worth 3 mana. 5 armor might be worth 1 mana. So I feel we are overpaying this card for 1 or 2 mana at least. And with the mechanic that you really have to pay still the full mana cost of the card you're gonna make yourself, I'm a little bit worried. Definitely excited though. Definitely a great cool to see Deathstalker Rexxar coming here into Hearthstone. Professor Putricide, if I pronounce it correctly, is the new other Hunter legendary. So the first 2 cards that are revealed for Hunter are the 2 legendaries. And this one I think is definitely one of the best cards revealed so far, or at least one with great potential. 4 mana 5/4. So if I just look at the stats, I always go first over to the stats. Stats wise, the card is already doing a pretty great job. 4 mana 5/4. After you play a secret, put a random Hunter secret into the battlefield. So it is not that it doesn't play in secret itself, but it is the legendary that can support other cards that can maybe put a lot of secrets on the board really well. Where you already have the value of this card playing it at turn 6, and instead of getting 1 secret on the board, you get 2 secrets on the board. There are also some great synergy with other Hunter cards. The Huntress, what is in 3 mana 3/4, where you can play all your secrets for 0 mana. If you manage to play that at turn 3, keep your secrets behind, play the Professor at turn 4, you're able to get a lot of early secrets out, and that can really, especially at turn 4, definitely has the potential to really swing the game around. So I see huge potential for this card, besides the effect being a really snowball effect. And normally the cards that have a snowball effect, they can find some play. They have room to find some play. This is a card I wouldn't mind making my deck around. and the stat line of already being a 4 mana 5/4, great for aggressive hunter decks, great for mid-range hunter decks, and great for the hunter concept in general. So I see great potential for this Professor. I think he is already really strong. Secrets can be made around it, and maybe not a Mistress Challenger, but definitely can make some great Christmas trees happening. You're gonna experience it, I think. So I think it's a really really good legendary for Hunter. Next card, and also the card that was lastly revealed for now, the Ghastly Conjurer. It's a mage card, 4 mana 2/6, battle cry, add a mirror image spell to your hand. So here we have a really interesting, more tempo mage card, good value card, 4 mana 2/6. So we have the 4 slot where we already have the water elemental, and here we are having a 4 mana 2/6. So we are losing one of our attack points for adding a mirror image spell to your hand. Mirror, it is, just to clarify, it adds the mirror image spell to your hand, not the minion, or not the 0/2 minion. So you will gain a 1 mana spell in your hand. Will be interesting to see if there is any way of this card also making it into constructed. With the stat line, I think it is, it might be a little bit tough. Still having a good stat line with more defense, so, but I wonder if there are going to be more tempo mage cards that will synergize. It's a good value card, so definitely also for value perspectives like Arena can definitely find some play in. And I think the Battle Cry, the value of this card is kind of nice for 4 mana with the stat line and adding an additional card to your hand that you can combine with Sorcerer Apprentice really well, that you can combine with Antonidas. I can see if it might, I can see that it finds some concept in that play. I will hope that there will be a little bit additional spells that make a more tempo mage archetype possible to shine up again, because that is, I think, where this card has the best potential. And here, one of the cards that was revealed as the first one, the Paladin card, Chillblade Champion, 4 mana 3/2, charge a leaf, charge and lifesteal. So, as a Paladin card, I think that is a really good card. To be honest, I think the mechanic of charge and lifesteal is a really powerful mechanic. Lifesteal is the new addition to the expansion with gaining every time it attacks, you gain life back. With the mechanic of charge combined, this card basically says 4 mana 3/2 charge heal 3, and it has the potential of heal 3 again. So lifesteal, I think, is a really powerful mechanic that should not be underestimated. I don't think this is one of the best Paladin cards, but I think this is value wise also overall. In a more aggressive meta, it's definitely one of the lifesteal cards that I think can be pretty good. Only thing that I just see as a little bit problem is the 4 slot, and this is a really big problem for Paladin in Constructed. I don't think this card overall, I think, can be alright. I just am worried for this card about True Silver Champion, what is kind of doing a little bit the same, but just doing it in a little bit better way. And that might be an issue for the card in the constructed gameplay, where Paladin has already really great resources towards healing. And I don't think this is the card that does it as well as a True Silver. Comparing it to more like Wicker Flame, I'm also a little bit worried if Wicker Flame is not just a little bit better in the way. So, we'll see. Maybe some more support for lifesteal. Maybe even more for charge or something. Then the card can be more played. This is the only card we know so far from Paladin. So we'll come back to this for sure. And another lifesteal card, and this one is for the Priest. And for now, I think this is the best lifesteal card revealed so far. Priest lifesteal card, Spirit Lash, deals 1 damage to all minions, but all the damage that you deal is also lifestealed. So, dealing it to all minions, it also deals to your own minions. But what is, I think, might be good for this card about Priest is Priest cannot deal with 1 health minions. For Priest it is really awkward sometimes to deal with the 1 HP minions. Having a card that might clean up 2 or 3 minions on the board, or helping to support it, gaining a little bit life back. I can see this card overall has great value. We have now, and also the mana cost is just being 2 mana. The thing is, Priest has already a lot of lifesteal mechanics or really a great heal mechanic, so it might be a little bit of an overkill. Combining to this to other cards like Arcane Explosion, for example, it's just kind of the same, where you now have a little bit of a lifesteal mechanic in it. So I can see it as a great tech card for constructed Priest decks, and I can see it as a pretty decent all-around arena card too for Priest. Just a little bit, Priest normally goes more towards the combo-based constructed decks, and that might be a hard time for this card to get in. Value-wise, I think for 2 mana this card is pretty alright. And now the rogue card that is revealed so far, and this is a really interesting one. It's a really interesting one because I feel it adds some new way of mechanic also to the game. Not totally, because we are used to poisonous, but now we are also able to poisonous friendly minions. We are able to give the poison mechanic to other minions. And it being a rogue card, it is it makes the card also kind of interesting in the way that rogue has already great removal tools. Rogue is the deck, because I think this card could be completely really strong in other classes. For Rogue already has some really great way of removing. We have some hard removal like the Vileplume Slayer. We have some other just great removal cards with Backstab, Eviscerates, SIs. But cards like this can just shine up so strong in Arena. Just imagine that you can combine this on one of your weaker minions and you can just burn away one of the big drops from your opponent. Just getting it on a 1 or a 2 drop, or just a minion that is weakened, trading it away, a really strong minion. It has use potential. It is a card that has been already around in a lot of other card games, where you have a 3 mana card that is able to give poisonous to friendly minions. So this card is good. The card is just good. It's just that Rogue not always playing with 1, 2 or 2 drops, or not always having these 1 or 2 drops that are surviving on the board, and already having so many great removal tools, it might be a little bit hard for this card to really fill in that slot. Rogue will need a little bit additional early game, but this is definitely a really strong card. It is. If you will give this card to any other class, I will be saying this card is gonna make it in constructed decks. For now, I'm a little worried for Rogue because of the little lack of cheap minions and the already great tools of removals. Alright, so here the new Shaman weapon revealed. We have a Shaman weapon, and this, when I saw this out, I had some double feelings with this card. 2 things. 1, hey, this card doesn't look so great. 2, what is coming into this next expansion? So we have here the Icebreaker being a 3 mana 1/3, destroy any frozen minions damaged by this. I immediately had to think, wait, what does Shaman really have as freeze mechanic? So the Shaman has Frost Shock. You can of course play with the Glacial Shard. You can play with the Frost Elemental and so on, or there are ways to freeze minions, but they are really limited. And this being a 3 mana 1/3 weapon, so you still have to attack first, and then, or you have to first freeze the minion, then you have to attack, you take the damage, and then the minion dies. But there are just not many freeze mechanics in the game yet. I really want to know if there are any more freeze mechanics coming into game, and then this weapon has kind of the poisonous effect of that the minion dies, but you always have to combine it again with the freeze. So it's gonna review. You need to make your deck a little bit around it. You need to have a lot of resources to do it. So I'm a little bit worried about it. I don't think it is the next Spirit Claws. I think it's more early, or I think it's more the opposite of that. But it can be, maybe with some new cards, we have to see more. But for now, the card on itself looks pretty weak. And going towards the more legendary cards of the classes, we now also got the Warlock legendary. Warlock legendary being Blood Queen, Lana'thel, 5 mana, 1/6 lifesteal, gains +1 attack for each card you have discarded this game. So really interesting new card here for the Warlock, with gaining additional attack by discarding. So it's definitely a card that you want to play with having discard cards in your deck. How good is it gonna be? So Warlock is definitely a little bit suffering in this expansion. Warlock has to really need some power cards. Looking at this card itself, I would have loved to see this card being a little bit more available for mid-range Warlock decks and for control Warlock's deck. I am worried that this card, where it could be a really great card and where lifesteal could be really great for a Warlock, I'm a little worried for this card that it just doesn't fit the Warlock archetypes enough. You can make it into discard decks, but discard decks tend to be more aggressive, tend to be a little bit more inconsistent in the way of the discard mechanics works, where sometimes you discard the cards you don't want to discard, of course. You can discard this card. The upside, of course, is by just having this card in your deck, you already stack your attack. So if you discard a card, you don't have the card in your hand, you are stacking the mechanic also, making the card much stronger. So once the card comes in play I think already by discarding 2 cards, it can already be great. Like value-wise, this card has great potential in more aggressive metas. I just hope that that we get additional stuff, because on this self, we need more for Warlock for this card to shine. And I am not sure if we weren't gonna get much more discarded cards yet. I was really hoping for more support towards the mid-range Warlock archetype, more demon archetype. Not a big fan of this card mechanic myself, just in the way it works. But yeah, it is a card with definitely potential. I definitely think lifesteal should not be underestimated for Warlock. Warlock needs heal gain in this expansion. After Reno rotated out, the biggest problem for Warlock became that they have the best hero power maybe in the game, but they are not able to have enough heal. And lifesteal is definitely a mechanic that will be the most beneficial for Warlock. Just needing just need to see more what it comes into the expansion. But yeah, Blood Queen, it looks great. It is a different way of we can maybe approach Warlock if the supportive cards are also coming into this expansion. Continuing here towards Warrior, and Warrior also adding a really interesting way of a new mechanic, I feel, to the game. We haven't really seen any abilities that are working on your opponent's turn. Secrets are kind of working like that, but now we also see minions also getting that into play. We have here the Mountainfire Armor, Death Rattle. If it is your opponent's turn, gain 6 armor. So it's only working on your opponent's turn, and that's kind of interesting of now having this. I wonder if there is more coming into expansion. It feels like kind of a hint of maybe there are more abilities coming that are working on your opponent's turn. But definitely great to see. And looking at the card, I mean, a 3 mana 4/3 stat wise already kind of alright. And with the potential of Death Rattle gain 6 armor, it definitely has a really big upside for mid-range and maybe control warrior decks. But you need to pressure. I mean, the Death Rattle needs to happen by your opponent. Otherwise, you are not gaining the armor, and it's a 3 mana 4/3. So I wonder, I really love this mechanic. I hope we're gonna see a lot more. I feel it's also a pretty skill mechanic in some way of, yeah, do I wanna kill it off myself? Also from your opponent's perspective, how annoying is the minion? You probably don't wanna kill it, so that's kind of a pressure too. So it requires a really way more thought process behind trading. Really hope, I really hope this is a card I would love to see in some old school Tempo Warrior, for example, where the Tempo Warrior was a deck that kinda pressured a lot and people were forced to trade into, where Battle Rage was a really consistent card draw. These cards can really support, could really fit with the Mountainfire Armor. So that will be great, and I think this card on itself is really, really great. I hope that Warrior gains a little bit more support in this expansion that doesn't really improve the aggressive Pirate Warrior, but more towards Tempo, Mid-Range Warrior and Control Warrior. And I can see this card working really well in that. And also an additional weapon comes into the Knights of the Frozen Throne. It is the Blood Razor. 4 mana 2/2 weapon. Battlecry and Death Rattle deal 1 damage to all minions. So the deal 1 damage to all minions has been a mechanic that has been around for Warrior for a long time. We have seen it from the start with the Wildwind. We now know the Ravaging Ghoul. We know the old school Deathbite that was there around. We had the Revenge back in the day, so it has been a mechanic that is around, and it has great synergy with Warrior cards in general. You have Acolyte that draws you cards, you have armor cards like Armorsmith, maybe Battle Rages that draw you additional cards, and Rage mechanics. So the deal 1 damage to all minions, besides benefiting you dealing damage to your opponent minions, it is not a disadvantage doing it to yourself. That's what I want to say. Now looking also a little bit at the card, the 4 mana 2/2. Once I saw this card, I had to directly think about the Deathbite, of course. Deathbite was one of the best Warrior cards ever revealed. 4 mana 4/2 weapon, deal 1 damage to all minions as in Death Rattle. Deathbite was of course also really powerful because it had the mechanic to directly trade with 4 and 5 drops with the attack it had. That's a little bit of the downside, of course, for the Blood Razor, but I don't think we should ever underestimate it. I actually think it's a really good card. By having a Battle Cry of dealing 1 damage, I think if I look at how good Ravaging Ghoul has been in the meta, if I look at that deck still would like to play just a random Wildwind as a tech card, I think the Blood Razor can be a really good one-off weapon, maybe even in some metas even more, but as a one-off weapon in a more control warrior based deck, where the Battle Cry of deal 1 damage to all minions, like the meta and the Hearthstone is really token based at the moment. There are a lot of decks that are floating the board. I think that with a mechanic of deal 1 damage, you're also, by equipping this weapon, you have a deal 1 damage effect on all the minions, but you also have 2 attacks, so you're able to just trade away 3 health minions. You have a Death Rattle mechanic that also deals 1 damage, so you can just let it stay there a little bit, maybe with the 2 charges. I definitely think it's a really, really great concept card, really cool card for Warrior, because I feel it adds more to the mid-range and control archetype of Warrior, what I like to see. And I think this card is really good. I would really see this card, I think we're gonna see this card played and constructed. Alright, and so we are gonna continue to the neutral cards and the neutral legendaries. And once I say this card, once I saw this card, I really had to think a little bit. 3 mana 3/3 Prince Taldaram. If your deck has a no 3 cost cards, transform into a 3/3 copy of a minion. So really interesting design of, like, if your deck requires no 3 drops into a 3/3 copy of a minion. So the mechanic is really wide. You can you want to play this into a deck where it really benefits you just getting a 3/3 minion. But when does that happen? Well, that happens when you are playing with Death Rattle cards, playing with cards that benefit directly with at the end of the turn gaining a card maybe, but especially Death Rattle cards. Classes where this card might kinda be viable on my first perspective was Hunter, maybe Priest, because they are having a more death rattle mechanic where it can be beneficial of getting an 3/3. The only problem I see is your deck is not required to require 3-cost cards, and that worries me a little bit, because Hunter cannot play without animal. Like, you have Animal Companion, you have Eagle Hornbow, you have Kill Command, you have Unleashed Hounds. Like, there are so many great 3-drops. Priest, that issue is a little bit less, but you still have cards like Talon Priest, you have the Glimmerroot, you have Shadow Death as removal cards. So not playing any 3-drops is a really... There are not many decks. You might think, oh, we can do this, but there are not many decks where you are happy with not playing 3-drops at all. And is this card worth it in general towards that? Besides that, of course, it's gonna be a really fun card. You can make some hilarious decks with. Make your Ancient One, like, just play a single minion, just play your Ancient One in the deck. Play with this Legendary, you get another one. Or play the Ancient One, Innervate. Play this card, you got 2 Ancient Ones, and you have your 9 mana 30/30. And I think there are way more of these hilarious combos possible. Definitely a great card to have some little fun with around. But constructed wise, I really have to see if it can find any play. And another, and so we are now going to the second neutral legendary that is revealed, but is kind of feeling a little bit in the same way. If your deck has no 2-cost cards, so where we just saw the legendary with having no 3-cost cards, now we having the Prince Kaleseth with not having any 2-cost cards. Give all minions in your deck +1/+1. So this card I see a little bit more potential for, with giving all your minions +1/+1. But the only thing is, you really want to draw this card early. Like, if you draw this card early, it can be really strong. Like, imagine coining this card out or playing it at turn 2 and everything gets already +1/+1. Now the only thing is, can decks require to not play any 2-cost cards? And it's gonna be a little bit hard. I think there is opportunities for decks like Zoo that, yeah, there is Direwolf Alpha or Knife Juggler, but they are not as important as the 1-drops. You can maybe fill it off with some additional 1-drops, maybe some more 3-drops. But the only thing is, you are really required to draw this card early to really beneficial well from it. And I hope that that there can be some more token decks around. It's definitely a card that is great for token decks. You have to require your deck to not play any 2-cost cards, so that might be a hard punish still for also token based decks to not do that. There might be some classes around. I mean, imagine it, for example, in Rogue. I was thinking of, yeah, like, not playing Eviscerate hurts you a little bit, but that's really it. Maybe Telnos, and then you can already play it. But is it gonna be worth enough for it to get played? We'll see. It has a great potential. There is definitely great upside on the card. Now it's just a big question, can it make up for the downside? I'm a little bit worried, but definitely gonna try out this card. Alright, and so another just revealed yesterday, also Nerubian Unraveler. Spells cost 2 more. 6 mana 5/5 card. So this card, of course, really we all think about already back around low tap, what has been one of the most impactful cards in the Hearthstone history as a counter mechanic. Well, we got it a little bit back here. We got it a little bit back. Definitely not on the same power level, but definitely a card that is an interesting, more counter card towards spell-based decks, towards Miracle Rogue, towards Freeze Mage. All these kind of decks that are really requiring a lot of spells. This card can be a great tech card for as just a 1-off, just a 2-off maybe, but for some specific decks. It is a card that I would say has to fit more in more tempo-based decks, because otherwise it just doesn't fit the archetype. But this card should not be underestimated. If you're really having a strong board, you play this card, you lock down a lot of removal. Imagine people now having to swipe for 2 more, or imagine people having to use their Consecration for 2 more. Like, all this kind of small removals already, all the removal decks are having a little bit of a harder time. And it has been shown by low tap that it can be really powerful. It's just that this card, it costs a little bit more. We are overpaying a little bit, and the spell cost is still kind of working maybe in a way of it only costing 2 more. But I like this card. I really like this card. I think this is a card that is gonna mainly be impactful for some tournament play, where I'm a little bit worried of the consistency of the card towards ladder. I think this card can be definitely a great tech card for the more constructed tournament gameplay. And I really like this mechanic, where I was definitely a little bit frustrating back in the day around road tap, because I kind of like to play my Miracle Rogue and Freeze Mage around. I think it's a really healthy card, adding this card as for people that can now also considering teching a little bit against these cards. Next neutral card, Shallow Gravedigger, 3 mana, 3/1 Death Rattle. Add a random Death Rattle minion to your hand. So this was one of the cards that was revealed already really early. 3 mana with a 3 mana 3/1, kinda having the mechanic of drawing or adding a random Death Rattle minion to your hand. It's gonna be a little hard. Like, if cards that are a little bit comparable might be Stonehill the Vendor, where what says 3 mana, draw or discover a top minion. Now we have a Death Rattle card that adds a random Death Rattle. So yeah, well, like, being it a random Death Rattle can of course be like, sometimes can be really good, sometimes it can be really bad. So that consistency is still a little bit questionable. 3 mana 3/1, stat wise really not so great of a stat line in the way of it not being worth 3 mana. It can be really nice for maybe Death Rattle based decks. Like, the value of course can be insane in some value decks. Maybe in Arena, like, having cards like this that always add additional cards can of course be great. Maybe some really, like, there are some, I expect a lot of Death Rattle more mechanic out of the Knights of the Frozen Throne, where things rise up out of the death. Of course there have to be also Death Rattle cards, so maybe there are additional Death Rattle cards coming now that can make a really great Death Rattle archetype possible for maybe aggressive decks, maybe for Priest that already has kind of alright Death Rattle mechanics, and maybe even more. So I think we need to see a little bit more, because I think there will be more Death Rattle cards coming into Knights of the Frozen Throne. That might make this deck even better, because now adding a random Death Rattle minion, I'm a little bit worried that it's too expensive also, and it's a little bit of a slow mechanic of course, Death Rattle. But if there is some buff cards towards Death Rattle cards that will buff also Death Rattle minions, that your opponent is also getting a little bit scared that if he doesn't kill off the Death Rattle minion, it's only becoming worse, then I think there might be really ways for Death Rattle to shine up again. Definitely more X can help in that way. We will see if there are more Death Rattle cards coming. And so we go to the card that was revealed on the 24th of July. The only card that was revealed on the 24th of July, where a lot of people were hoping to see a lot of cards. It was the Tickling Abomination. 4 mana, 5/6 Death Rattle, deal 5 damage to your minions. So we have another Death Rattle card. 4 mana, 5/6, and this is what I mean. Like, you see there are a lot of Death Rattle cards coming into Hearthstone now, into the Knights of the Frozen Throne. 5 mana 5/6 or 4 mana 5/6 with a downside Death Rattle mechanic. The stat line of this card of course is be really good, but you also have to say how often do you really want to like play these kind of Death Rattle cards that have a downside, even their stat line being quite great. Death Rattle, deal 5 damage to your minions is of course a really big ticking downside, where once the Death Rattle procs, your board is gone. I have seen this card before in Rogue, where we had a similar card being a 4 mana 5/5 that bounces your minion back to your hand. And that was really hard to make it work. This card is a neutral card, so you can of course make your deck around it, and cards that are not like removal decks that don't really care maybe on like your board getting 5 AoE damage. There the deck might, or there the card might really fit in. The question of course is, well, do you want to play a 4 mana 5/6 for that? But the stat line, of course, is pretty great. The Death Rattle mechanic is definitely a downside, so I'm a little bit worried this card will not make it into Death Rattle decks because of that. But maybe that's just why it will just make it into Death Rattle decks, because there are a lot of eggs around. Imagine you play the egg on turn 3, or you play some eggs in the first turns, you play the ticking Abomination, and people are kind of forced to trade away, but also the eggs are there that you can just use it on, and it actually, from the downside of the Death Rattle effect, you make an upside of the Death Rattle effect. So there are still ways for this card to make work, and it definitely, with even some buff mechanics to make X cards a little bit scarier, to make cards like this a little bit scary. I think there are definitely ways to make it work. For now, on itself, I don't think the card is gonna be really strong enough to fit into Constructed. As a value card for Arena, of course the stat line is great, so it has definitely potential. That was my first review of the Knights of the Frozen Throne. Let me know what you think about all the cards, which cards you are excited about. And I will come back to you with more reviews, of course, of the new cards when there are more cards reviewed. Thank you for watching, guys, and see you in the next one.